Earlier we created a store controller, but we haven't actually looked at it much. So here it is. The store controller has different actions, home and about. And they send back the actual view page called home and about by default. So basically the router takes a URL, it sends it to controller action, and then the controller sends back an actual web page. Now the controller could have other code in them, which we'll soon see. We're going to fill in some new code. You could go to the web page by clicking, in RubyMine you could go to the actual page by clicking next to the controller action, which is a convenient way to navigate around. Now let's go back to our web page. So we see here on the top it says the automated store, which is the title. We could view it in the HTML. If you look here, it says title, the automated store. Where did this title come from? When we look at the actual web page, all it has is this heading and a paragraph. There's no HTML title defined. So actually there's a file called application.html.arb. In Rails, all your pages are inserted in the yield statement over here, but the application file could have all sorts of code that wraps around it and creates correct HTML file. So when we look over here, we see there's a title, the automated store. So let's go ahead, quickly fix it so it has a space. Now it's called automated store. If we go back to our web page, we click refresh, we'll see the space got added. We could also view the difference over here, automated store. Now it'd be good if each web page could have its own title. So to do this, we would want to pass in some code for each page that sets the title. So let's go back to our store controller, and we're going to create a variable called title. We're going to call it automated store. Now variables created in the controller with a little @ before them are available to the view files. In fact, the main purpose of the controller is to set variables that will be displayed in the view files. Usually it's by connecting to the database, but in this case it's just by declaring the variable. Now, if we go back to our home file, we can actually replace this with title. So if we just wrote title like that, that'll just be in the HTML itself, and if you go to your web page, it will just show up as title. What we want to do is display some Ruby code here, and the Ruby code should output its contents. So to display Ruby within HTML, you create this tag here. This is a tag for displaying Ruby content, and it will evaluate whatever Ruby is there, and it will display its output. In this case, we have some very simple Ruby code, title, and we just want it to display that. So if we go back here and we refresh the page, we now have the title again. It's the same as before, but now we've actually created a dynamic web page. Very slightly dynamic. So we could now reuse this title in the application file. Instead of it saying automated store, we could have the same exact code and now if we refresh the page, we have automated store on top, automated store over here, but it's all using Ruby code. Now we could go ahead and do the same thing for the about page. Go back to the store controller, and we could set a variable title, and we will call this title about the store. Then we could go open up the about page, and display the title. So if we go to about, now displays about the store, and if we look at the top, the title has been changed to about the store because we set the title in the controller, and that went to the same application file, which now has the title for about the store. Now what happens if we don't set the title variable in the control action? So we won't have a title set. So what we should do is actually change this over here. If there's a title, it should display the title, but otherwise or, that's the Ruby for or. If there's no title, instead we'll just put a default title, the automated store. So this is a very concise Ruby code that lets you either display the title or display this default text. So now if we go to our application and let's say go to contact, so we didn't set any title, but luckily there's a default title, the automated store, which works out well. Now if we go back to our terminal and we run rake test, so we'll see that it checked the titles and that the titles still work. Home page has title, about page has title, and the contact page has a default title because we just set that default title option. So it actually fails. That's where we're going to get to the next page to display actual product information on the pages.